Hello, everybody. Welcome back to L Space, or welcome to L Space if you're new. My name is Tristan, and today we're just gonna do a little bit of a book chat. And as I'm saying that, the AC has just kicked on. It's making a lot of noise. So even though it's a little bit warm today, I'm gonna go turn that off. I think initially I was planning on getting like a nicer camera to film with, because I think just like some of the quality of my phone camera just isn't quite where I want it to be for what I want to start doing, at least in the future. But I think sooner rather than later it's going to be a nicer microphone, because the microphone on my phone just like catches everything around me. And sometimes a lot of times you can probably hear my neighbors upstairs thumping around. They are very heavy steppers. And yeah, I would like something that dampens noise around me a little more, and also so that my voice, like the quality, is just a little better. Anyway, so today I'm gonna do a little bit of a book chat, kind of a weekly reading wrap-up type thing. I just finished, like an hour and 22 minutes ago, I just finished my third book for the month, which is not very many. I am usually a pretty voracious reader. I read a lot every month, and the fact that I've only finished 3 books so far this month is a little unusual, but there's a good reason for that, and that is, well, there's one good reason and one unfortunate reason. The first good reason is that last week, so 2 Thursdays ago, I defended my thesis and I passed. So that basically means that I'm authorized to graduate. I just need to do some revisions, rewrites, a little bit more research on a couple of the sections, but for the most part, your boy's done. So that's a relief. So I was very occupied with that, getting ready for that, and of course doing it. Simultaneously, of course, because this is how the universe works, I was very sick. And when I say very sick, it was like just a really annoying cold. I work with children. They are a veritable cesspool of disease and filth, and so I continually get sick from them. And I just got a really bad cold. I didn't have a voice. I barely had a voice for my thesis defense, which of course was great because I had to do the whole thing in French, and just like, anyway, yeah, it's fine. So, I'm better now. I'm still a little phlegmy, a little gross, but gonna carry on, not gonna worry about it. So, let's talk about some books. So the first book that I've finished so far, I finished it, I guess, last Saturday? So a week ago today, I finished this one. And this is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura, translated by Philip Gabriel. And I thought this book was fine. It's very popular. It's got a great message and a great theme, but I had a little bit of a hard time connecting to it, and I'll explain why in just a second. So for those that don't know, it is described as a magical realism story. It's not, it's fantasy. It's a very classic magical door fantasy, where you have a portal that leads you into a magical world, realm, etc., where magical things happen. And the label of magical realism does not fit with this. So for whatever reason, it's marketed as magical realism. It is not. Just flat out, it is not magical realism. It's fantasy. So, that little bit of a gripe out of the way, let's get into this. So this, for all intents and purposes, is a book about bullying, finding your sort of group of people that can help support you and give you the, I guess, security and love, really, that you need to overcome the challenges in your life. And the fact that everybody has challenges and, stuff they're going through that impacts the way that they treat themselves, treat other people, etc. And on that side of things, it's a really beautiful story. The whole message about bullying and the way that the characters kind of pull each other up and pull together to pull each other up is quite lovely, and the ending of the book is very lovely, and I liked that one a fair amount. The things that I had trouble with this were two things. One being, I very much struggled with the translation. I have read a few books now translated from Japanese into English, and it seems to be a trend with some of those books that the translators are a little too sterile and a little too flat with their translations. And it could just be a quality of Japanese literature that I am not aware of because I don't speak Japanese. It could just be a quality that in the literature, a stylistic thing that I just have a hard time connecting with. But I found that a lot of this was, again, a little flat. And at the same time, and I do think that this is a factor of the translation itself, that a few of the passages became quite awkward to read, in that the sentences and the way that things were explained or written, the prose, was a little clumsy. As I mentioned, thesis, I study French literature, and in that work, I have a fair amount of experience with translation, so I read things in both French and English, and I've read books that are originally in French translated into English. The topic of my thesis, Thérèse d'Esquirol by François Mauriac, is a book that I've read in both French and English, originally in French, and then I read the English translation. There are some things in that book that the translator just completely got wrong, inarguably, like factually got wrong. And I'm not saying that that's what happened with Philip Gabriel, because Philip Gabriel is a very experienced translator. He's the one that's translated majority of Haruki Murakami's work into English, and he's a scholar of Japanese literature. I think those things might have affected the translation of this, given that this is a more young adult book. The man is not a young adult translator. Plain and simple. He translates Haruki Murakami. And to some extent, and he's an academic, and so I think those factors might have affected his ability to render this as an accessible and enjoyable young adult novel. That's kind of all I'll say. I have a lot of other thoughts about translation in general, and they do rest a lot with this one, as well as the English translation, the 2021 English translation of Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kadano, which was translated by, in my opinion, and I don't necessarily know if this is well supported, but in my opinion, by somebody who knows very well how to translate but does not know how to write. And that's kind of where I may have fallen with this one too. He knew how to translate, but I don't think he really knew how to write specifically young adult style. So I had some trouble connecting with the translation. Again, found it a little bit flat, a little bit awkward. And then the other thing is that I really do not like modern Japanese anime. Really don't like it. And one of the things, I can point to a specific example of one of the things that I dislike. So the dialogue and the characters feel very anime-y. And I think it's just like a thing with modern, contemporary Japanese anime, that there's a lot of like weird posturing, kind of like sizing each other up and whatever, and you know, that's fine. People can enjoy that I don't really care, but personally I just don't enjoy it. It's just kind of annoying. So one of the things in this that I remember was, I think it was like the main character said like to one of the other characters, like, you look a lot like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. And then another character just kind of went after her. It's like, oh, that must mean you read a lot of books, doesn't it? And I feel like that's fairly common in anime these days, that there are these huge logical jumps that they make. Like, describe somebody as a recognizable character that is widespread, found everywhere, the subject of many a meme, and then thinking that because you recognize that person and you also recognize the qualities of that character in a person means that you read a lot of books. That logical leap is a little bit too far. I think it jumped, here's the destination, and it landed somewhere in here. And there was a lot of that in the characters' interactions. There's just a lot of annoying posturing and kind of these weird interactions that I did not like. And it was very reminiscent of a lot of, again, Japanese anime. Not a fan. Those criticisms aside, I did very much enjoy the overall structure of the story. I thought that the way everything was tied together at the end was really cool and very interesting. The way that it all came together, and I liked that the magic of the Lonely Castle in the mirror, like the castle itself, the way that came about was never explained. Like how it happened. So I liked that. I liked that it was just a mystery to the end, and it was cool. And I also think that the sort of emotional resolution of it was very touching and very impactful, and I very much enjoyed that. So that was a pretty good one. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars because, at the end of the day, it was pretty good. I very much enjoyed it, despite the things that I struggled with. Then I finished this. I finished The Tainted Cup, and oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. This is a fantasy murder mystery that takes place in a fantasy world where it's a very low magic story in that none of the characters really possess any particular power. They are augmented through various grafts and suffusions that tend to be like herbal suffusions and like reagents and things like that they are then augmented to have perfect memories, or they have perfect mathematical spatial awareness where they can give you the square root of 4,287,922 like that. Whereas I don't even really remember the number that I just said, much less what the square root of that is. So there's a lot of those that are really cool. So basically, this is a really good example of sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable. Or sorry, that's a... Where does that come from? Oh, that comes from Futurama. Sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from science, but the other way around. Sufficiently advanced science is indistinguishable from magic. And that this is a really good example of that. Where it's the magic is all very scientific, and it's all really about potions and I think that they described it is that the empire, the Canaan Empire, long ago mastered life and the ability to manipulate life. So they are just very advanced biologists, basically. Biologists and biochemists. But yeah, so super interesting. The mystery is really fun. It takes you on a lot of twists and turns, and it kind of leads you to suspect the correct people. And then when you finally so you suspect the right characters along with the protagonists, who one of them is an engraver, so that's somebody who has perfect memory, and then the other one is sort of the lead investigator named Anna. So it's Din, the engraver, and then Anna, who's the lead investigator. And you suspect the correct characters along with them, and then when you have your suspicions confirmed, it's so satisfying. The world is so cool in this one. It's really well thought out. It's really well crafted. You feel very immersed in the world that's created here, and I loved it. I think that the only thing that I didn't love were some of the naming of people, like the names. Some of the names just were a little weird and a little awkward, but alongside that, they were pretty original. I've never seen names like this, so really, really enjoyed this. And also he wrote it in the acknowledgments that he wrote this book. So like there's a quote in here that says that the backbone of any society are the people who perform the maintenance on said society. So the people who fill in the potholes, the people who repair the plumbing or build infrastructure, the civil servants, basically. And this is a book very much about them, and very much about people who perform the menial tasks of maintaining the great works of any society. And I loved that about this book, because it is very much a bunch of average people doing extraordinary things with the help of their little plant potion magic-y things. And yeah, super cool. Really, really, really highly recommend this one. And so happy that it's also a series, because we will be getting more of these, which is very great. So can't wait. Oh, it's such a good book. So I finished those. Like I said, I literally finished The Tainted Cup like less than 2 hours ago. So that I'm still kind of like on the high of finishing that one and getting to the conclusion. Also, great disability representation. Thought that was really well done. And just like, yeah, I'll leave you to go and seek that out, because I thought it was pretty cool. Really interesting environmental messages too. Would also recommend it from sort of like an eco fantasy type thing, because it's kind of on that side of things. And kind of anti-capitalist too in a lot of ways, or just like anti-aristocracy, etc. But anyway, that said, would definitely recommend that book. Fantastic. It's 400 pages, but it goes by super quick, and it is a real page turner, because you want to keep finding out what's going on. And I got that from, I think, Aardvark Book Club or whatever it's called. I think that might have been the last book that I got from them, because I canceled all of my book subscriptions. I was just getting too many books. But I was encouraged to read it by Murphy Napier, and I've never been steered wrong by her reading recommendations. So that was great. All right. I'm going to be starting this one very soon. This is my book club book for the month, or just like for our like next sequence. This is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And this is a fun, what I'm told, a fun found family story in space. And I know that Becky Chambers is kind of a big name in science fiction right now, and that she writes really beautiful, wholesome, cozy-ish sci-fi that borders on some really cool philosophical things that I am excited to partake in. So this, I'm like pretty much as soon as I'm done filming and then editing this video, I'm gonna start reading this, and so I'll have more thoughts on this later. But yeah, really, really excited to read this. It's been on my list for a long time, and when we decided it was gonna be our book club book, I was like, finally, priority. So yeah, really excited about that. All right, last but not least, I saw this in my library because I was there to print some things for D&D. And I talked about this in my library tag. I don't normally check physical books out from the library. I'm usually just an audiobook guy. But I saw it, and I thought, it's there. It's going to prevent me from buying the book right away, spending the $30, etc. So I got The Guncle Abroad. And I really loved the first one. It's right there on my shelf. I thought it was a beautiful meditation on grief and processing grief in children. And just like it's a very nice representation of like the positive influence, the positive presence, I should say, the positive presence of a gay family member in just the family. And coming from a place, because I lived a lot of my life in Idaho, where people are very suspicious about gay people and gay people in families, and also just myself feeling a little bit out of place a lot of times in families. Not necessarily that I feel like I'm a negative presence, but just like feeling out of place. It's nice to see, it's nice to see the presence of a active, positive presence of a gay family member working within a family. So anyway, that said, when I heard about the second one, I was a little unsure because I think that The Guncle was a good kind of one-off, and so I was a little unsure about there being a sequel. But when I learned about what it's about, I was pretty interested. So Patrick O'Hara is back. It's been 5 years since his summer as his niece Maisie and nephew Grant's caretaker after their mother's passing. The kids are home in Connecticut with their dad, and Patrick has relocated to New York to remain close by and relaunch his dormant acting career. After the run of his second successful sitcom comes to a close, Patrick feels on top of the world professionally, but some things have had to take a back seat. Looking down both barrels at 50, Patrick is single again after breaking things off with Emery, but at least he has a family to lean on. Until that family needs to again lean on him. And that's a little bit of a spoiler of the first one, but anyway, yeah, it sounds good. And like if you read on in the synopsis, it's another kind of like emotional processing thing that the Guncle helps with the kids once more. So yeah, I am pretty excited about this. I also read The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley and really loved that one. I thought that was a very, very good book, and so I'm excited to get into another of his books because I do like him as an author. So can't wait to get into this, and I will report back with my thoughts. Because I only have this one for 2 weeks, and it's part of a special collection. It says Lucky Day Collection, 14-day loans, no renewals, and no holds. So I have to finish this one, and this will likely be my first of the Pride Month books that I pick up in June, because I think this is due like June 7th. So I have until then to finish it. Anyway, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back again for Tag Tuesday. I have an original tag coming for you this time, and I'm pretty excited to get that one filmed and put out into the YouTube sphere. So, yeah. Have you read any of these books? You probably haven't read this one because this is super new, but have you read The Tainted Cup, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, or A Lonely Castle in the Mirror? If you have, let me know what you've thought of them, if you are interested in reading them, or maybe if you have other thoughts on translation in general. I'd be interested to hear those, because that is sort of an academic interest of mine. But anyway, yes, I will see you again very soon. Like and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.